straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
Today on Light of the Word with Pastor Ray.
Anytime God puts something before us and we go, nah, that's really going to impact my comfort and ease. Nah, I like the ideas of bigger barns, and so I'm going to stay in my bigger barn mode. But investing in people and giving myself away to people, even giving away partial my inheritance, my cash. No. You know what? Every time that we would do that, we become more and more irrelevant.
Open your heart to us, Lord, so we can know your word. We come before you, Jesus. Speak to our hearts as we discover your love for us. How wide, how deep, how far. Pour into us so we can learn to follow. One surrender at a time. You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the Word.
What is it that God is calling you to do that you'd rather not? As you listen to today's message from Pastor Ray, he teaches you that every time you say no to the thing that God is calling you to do, you become more irrelevant within His kingdom. Maybe the Lord is calling you to write someone a check that feels a bit too far of a financial stretch. Maybe the Lord is calling you to invest into someone that you feel you don't have time for. Be obedient to whatever God is calling you to, and you will receive eternal reward. Well, let's join Pastor Ray in the Book of Ruth, chapter 4, for today's edition of Light of the Word.
So the Book of Ruth, it's only 85 verses, but boy, it's a power-packed story. It's a love story. It's a love story between a mother and a daughter, a love story between a man and a woman, and it's a love story between your God and you. He loves you. He loves you. You're precious. And He will go to the ends of the earth. He's demonstrated it, and He paints the picture here in this story for us in the Book of Ruth. I will go to the ends of the earth for you. And we ended verse 18 of chapter 3, because as the story goes, just to refresh you, a man and his wife, Elimelech, Naomi, they leave Bethlehem, the house of bread, the place God called them. They go to Moab with their 2 children. The father dies, leaves Naomi widowed. The 2 children take wives, one of them, the woman of this book, Ruth, a Moabitess. The 2 men die, and it's Naomi and Ruth now. And there was a famine in the land. It was the reason they left. And now they're coming back, poor, broke, empty. They have nothing. They're in debt. They come back into the land. God does His God instance, arranges Ruth to end up at this field of this man, Boaz. And love starts to bloom. At least Boaz is in love. And then we see Ruth, her heart turns and becomes enraptured by him. She comes to him, no immodesty, nothing immoral. She lays at his feet during the night of a threshing. Says, take me under your wing. We ended chapter 3, verse 18 with Boaz says, I will not rest. But we know the story. And there's a near kin, and that's where we pick it up. So let's pick that up here in verse 1. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz had spoken came by. So Boaz said, come aside, friend, sit down here. So he came aside and sat down. So we're going to recap when we get there this law of redemption, but there's a order, and this near kinsman, he has the right to redeem Ruth first. Boaz wants her, Boaz, a picture of Jesus Christ. Ruth, a picture of you, the bride. Boaz, Jesus Christ once her, but there's a near kin, and so starts this story. And they come to this gate. And the gate, it's like the city hall. It's the courts. And this is where, in those time of the ancient times, the city gates is where all the business transaction, all legal transaction would take place. So Boaz comes, he's waiting for this man who has first rights through the Levitical law to Ruth. He waits for him to come so he can make this information of redemption. And so this story begins here in this verse, the courthouse, if you would. Boaz is waiting. But you know what I like, and I just want to say this. It's been at least 7 years of famine, maybe 10. Land's wiped out all that time. Things are lean. God visits Israel. Obviously, there was a repentance on behalf of the people of Israel, because we're told through the scriptures that God would send famine when they were disobedient and rebellious to his word. It appears people were praying. There was repentance, God's visit. The land is blooming again with wheat and barley. Boaz don't care. How broke is Boaz? Not as broke as everybody else. He still owns his land. He still had servants. But Boaz is broke. And this is the time of harvest. This is the time to do business and to restock your storehouses and to make money and all those things. And what's Boaz do? I don't care. I don't care if my bank account's empty. I don't care if this is the greatest business opportunity that's put before me. I got a priority. It's my bride. To get the bride. Husbands, wives too. But I like to speak to the husbands as leaders of the house. I know it can seem like business is the greatest priority. I know it can seem like work or making money, or it can even be cleaning out the garage, can seem like the greatest priority. But God shows us and speaks to us this voluminous picture here in this story. Boaz don't care. My number one priority is Ruth. I'm going to invest everything, even if that means skipping financial windfall, even if that means skipping of the advancement through the career path or whatever it may be. He paints this picture for us. And husbands, let's love our wives as Christ loved the church. I'm going to be better. I'm going to do better. I'm going to invest more in my wife this year. I'm going to invest more in my relation this year, even if it means maybe skipping a promotion, even if it means maybe skipping some overtime, even whatever it might mean. I'm going to invest in my family. I'm going to invest in my wife. And wives, you can take that for yourself also. And I always like to say this. It's kind of a step out of the side, but I always like to say this. Young marriages, people dating, listen, men and women, don't do anything today that you don't plan on doing for your wife 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I never bought Renee roses when we were dating. I don't have to buy roses today. Wait, that wasn't the application meaning. It's supposed to reverse that. Because you know what happens? You buy your wife, your girl that you're dating, you know what? You buy her roses today while you're dating. And then 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you kind of wean off of that. Hey, man, you know how much roses are? And then I got to swing by and pick them up and all those things. Or you just get busy. Or you know what? Maybe the money for roses ended up going to diapers. But you know what your wife realizes and recognizes? He doesn't buy me roses anymore. And she thinks something's wrong. She thinks something's changed. She thinks the love that you once had isn't as on fire as it once was, because you don't buy roses no more. Or you don't make that whatever that special thing that you guys did once a week, once a month, once a year. Don't do anything today that you don't plan on doing for the rest of your relationship. But we see a beautiful picture. Here's Boaz. I got a priority. I don't care if this is the harvest and this is big money. Ruth is my priority, my wife to be. But he got this little problem, dramatic Hollywood fashion. Somebody else has right to her first. In verse 2, and he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, sit down here. So they sat down. We're going to build on this. There's 3 pictures that you'll get through this book of Ruth. One is it's historical. This is a true story. It actually happened. Secondly, is that it's prophetic. It gives prophetic pictures of end times. We're going to hit that today as we take a look in Revelation. And it gives a picture of the prophetic picture of Jesus, the right to the throne, and Jesus, the lineage, and Jesus tying him back to Bethlehem. And then thirdly, there's a personal application, God and you. Well, right now, this prophetic picture is we're going to see why 10. And what's going to be built here is there's a near kin that has a right to Ruth. And these 10 men represent the 10 commandments, the law of God. They have first right to Ruth. And so 10 in biblical typology is the number that represents witness. So here's 10 witnesses that are either going to confirm or deny that Boaz can have Ruth. And he's going to confirm or deny whether the near kinsman can have Ruth. And so we see this through the scripture. 6, it's the number of man. God created 6 days, 7th day rested. 7 in biblical typology, it's a picture of completeness, not perfect. It's complete, 7 days. It was complete, 7 notes in the music scale. And then there is 8, the number of new beginnings. Sunday starts the new week, 8, and we could study through all these things. So put that in your thoughts. 10, it's a picture of the law. Now verse 3 through 6. Then he said to the close relative Naomi, Naomi, who has come back from the country of Moab, sold the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. And I thought to inform you, saying, buy it back in the presence of the inhabitants and the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if you will not redeem it, then tell me that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am next after you. And he says, I will redeem it. Verse 5, then Boaz says, on the day that you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you must buy it from Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance. Verse 6, and the close relative says, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I ruin my own inheritance. You redeem my right of redemption for yourself, for I cannot redeem it. So to recap, if you recall where we've been, it's Leviticus 25 and Deuteronomy 25. Leviticus 25, it was this law of redemption of the land. And it lays out if someone died, if someone sold their property, or if someone found themselves in debt and they couldn't pay their debt, then whoever held that debt could take possession of their property. That's Leviticus 25, and it says and lines up, but if a near kinsman, a brother, sister, a brother, or an uncle would come, they could redeem the property and buy it back and then restore the family. And if not, every 50th year, the year of Jubilee, it would go back to the person anyways. That was God's great equalizer of making sure that big business didn't take over and monopolize. And then in Deuteronomy 25, it's the second part that Boaz just said on to this near kinsman. And that part was, and not only that, then you have to perpetuate the lineage, the name of the deceased brother, and that's going to be Ruth's husband, Mahlon. And so you're going to not only have to buy the property and pay the debt off, because you got to pay the debt off, you got to take Ruth as a wife, and then that first son becomes Mahlon's son, if you would, and Mahlon's son would go and continue on, and Mahlon's son would get the inheritance. Then any sons that you had after that would be considered yours, and then the inheritance would go that way. So you could be looking at a 50-50 split at the minimum. 50% of your inheritance goes to this first son, and then therefore and on. So here this guy, near kinsman, he comes and he says, I'll do it. You see in verse 4, bigger barns, this property, harvest time. I mean, you got a picture, the land's green, it's flowing with milk and honey again. I can get a bigger barn? Absolutely, I'll do it. Oh, buy Ruth? No. Property? Yeah. People? No. That's kind of a picture of the law. It's all about the rules, not so much about the people in that sense. Bigger property, bigger barns, I love it. Oh, people? That ruined my inheritance. 50% to this guy, the Ruth's son that I'm going to, no, I'm not into that. Now, this was a law. He had the right to do it, but there was the expectation to do it. And then that would follow with a responsibility to do. And he goes, no, not at the expense of my inheritance. No, I won't do it. Back in verse 1, it says, and Boaz said, come aside, friend. Maybe you see a little parenthetical hyphen or asterisk or something you see in your notes, and maybe it says something along the lines of Peloni Elamoni. It's the Hebrew. It means so-and-so. Boaz knows the name of this near kinsman. Everybody knows the name of who this near kinsman was. Maybe his name was Joe Smith, if you would. But the scriptures don't put Joe Smith. It's making a point. They knew exactly, specifically who it was. Hey, so-and-so. Hey, Joe, come here. I want to talk to you about this. They knew who it was, but he doesn't get to get recorded because he'll become a man of shame. He won't keep his responsibility. He won't live up to the expectation that was put into the law. He'd rather protect his property than help the people. They knew his name. What does he become? Mr. Irrelevant. Mr. Unmemorable. No one remembers his name. His name doesn't get recorded. He just becomes a forgotten person in a sense. And you know what, Christian? Anytime God puts something before us and we go, nah, that's really going to impact my comfort and ease. Nah, I like the ideas of bigger barns, and so I'm going to stay in my bigger barn mode. But investing in people and giving myself away to people, even giving away partial my inheritance, my cash. No, you know what? Every time that we would do that, we become more and more irrelevant in this world, in the kingdom world. We become more unmemorable. And I ask myself as I review my year past and look into the year future, what will you be known for this year? What will be the thing that you leave your impact on this year? Will it be bigger barns? Will it be, you can quote all the statistics of the irrelevant sports world? Or will your impact be of, I built a stronger marriage. I made an impact on the kingdom of God with the children that I ministered to. I gave myself away in the manner for the things of God, and I left an impact. It's been said, we don't want, success isn't a long life. It's a full life. And if you only live a few years, how full was that life? Because you can live a long life and just be still empty. This man becomes Mr. Irrelevant because he wouldn't step up. Boaz, here he comes. He didn't sleep a wink the night before. And the way I read this passage of 18, chapter 3 into verse 1, it's a continual theme. It's the next day. He didn't sleep a wink, I'm sure. And now here, verse 7 through 10. Now this was the custom in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and exchanging. To confirm anything, one man took off his sandals, we read that in Leviticus 25, and gave it to the other, and this was a confirmation in Israel. Therefore the close relative said to Boaz, buy it for yourself. So he took off his sandal, and Boaz says to the elders and all the people, you are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's, those are the two brothers, from the hand of Naomi. That's the mother of the two sons. Moreover, Ruth, the Moabitess, the widow of Mahlon, I have acquired as my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead through his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brethren and from his position at the gate. You are witnesses this day. Here's Boaz fully fulfilling Leviticus 25. I'll pay off all the remaining debt on this land. Pay it all. And then Deuteronomy 25, I will take Ruth and I will perpetuate the dead man's name, Mahlon, and I will take Ruth as my own. And what this shoe is to Boaz, it's an open door to the wedding. The shoe represented here what the shoe was. You took your shoe off and gave it. John, you sit in the front row since I'm going to take my shoe off and give it to you. No, you take your shoe off and give it to me. And so you take your shoe off. I would look odd walking around with no shoe on. But you would take your shoe off and you would give it, and it was a representation of shame. And when you walked back home, everybody would look and go, look at that man. He goes home in shame. Boaz holds up a shoe, if you would, as a trophy. The girl's mine. This shoe gives me the right to the girl. What a man. I'll buy the land. Did Boaz need more land? I'm reading Boaz is doing quite well. Boaz is a wealthy landowner. Did he need more land? And the answer is no. He's just gone through a famine. The debt doesn't change regardless of what the currency rate is worth. He still would have to pay off the debt that Naomi incurred on this land. He may have to pay off $1 million, if you would, to get that piece of land. He's willing. I'm down to I might spend all of this harvest money to buy this land back. I'll be putting nothing back into the bank so that I can buy this piece of property, which, by the way, it's useless today. The harvest is over. It would be of no value to him until the future where he can harvest it again. The land is of no value at this moment. He's going to be having to dip in deep into his bank account, probably today's profit, to buy the land. All for what? I don't want the land. I don't care about the land. I just want the girl. Sound familiar? Matthew 13, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in the field, which a man found and hid, and for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys the field. It's a picture of Jesus Christ, our greater than Boaz Jesus. I will buy the land to get the treasure. You, the bride, the girl. I say that endearingly. I'll sell it all. Tremendous prophetic picture. We need this chapter, this story, to unlock the book of Revelation for us. Key, huge. This, and then a parallel correlating passage of the same magnitude in the book of Jeremiah. We won't go there today. But walk with me through this prophetic picture, and it just amazes me. Genesis chapter 1. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish in the sea, over the bird in the air, over every living thing that moves. God gives the title deed of the earth to Adam and Eve. Subdue it. It's yours. I give it to you. I created it. I give it to you. It's my right to give it to you. Genesis chapter 3, then we know what happens. Then Adam, he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for you, and toil and eat in all the days. Both thorns and thistles it shall bring, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken. For dust you are, and to the dust you shall return. Satan comes and convinces them, man, there's something better for you. They fall for it, and they fall and they go the way of the flesh. And here's what happens in Genesis 3. God gives the title deed of the earth to Adam. Adam sins and gives the title deed of the earth to Satan. Do you see the picture that's going on here in the book of Ruth?
You have made the way for us to know you, a path that's straight and bright. By the light of the world.
Ruth's story is an inspiration. She left what she knew to care for a woman to whom she had no obligation, to live for a God that she likely hadn't been raised knowing, and to travel to a foreign land. It couldn't have been an easy road to walk, but God took care of Ruth. He provided exactly what she needed, preparing people and places ahead of her. God's doing the same thing in your life right now. He's prepared everything ahead of you on your journey of faith, and He'll take care of you, even when that journey isn't easy. Be courageous and follow Him. That's all we have time for today on Light of the Word. If you missed any part of today's message, you'll be able to hear it again at ccaac.org. As our time with you draws to a close today, we'd like to invite you to be a part of what we're doing here at Light of the Word. Would you partner with us in prayer? We ask that you spend time lifting us up to the Lord whenever you tune in to our program, asking Him to guide us and strengthen us as we share the message of the gospel. Would you also pray for those who are hearing these teachings and maybe learning about the hope of salvation for the first time? Pray that the enemy is kept at bay and that many will give their lives to God. Thank you for praying for us, and thanks for tuning in to Light of the Word, illuminating the heart of God.